this point, I had been up for 4 days. And I drop a couple of hits of acid, right? And then first time something snapped in my head and I was like, I'm God. Right? And then my friend, I don't even remember his name, who was doing acid next to me, started laughing and said, "Yeah, you are." And then I went, he agreed with me. And then after that, it's just my brain started to come unglued and unraveled. And I started like being this prophet dude or whatever. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you were pretty out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, so let me tell you the story of me leaving the family finally. So I got caught at Safeway here in Arcata.
Stealing vibers.
Yeah. And I had my girlfriend's, there was a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend, believe it or not, at the time, an upward bound girlfriend. And I had her money in my pocket. So I had enough money to pay for the Vibrance, but it wasn't my money. So I get caught by the security there, and they make me stay in there because I was stealing Vibrance. And then the cops show up, and they're like, "So who's your parent? Who's your guardian? Blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm 18. You don't have to tell my dad, do you?" And they're like, "Yes, actually, to verify your identity, I have to tell your father. I have to call your parents." And I was like, at that point, I was like, "Oh no," because I wasn't scared of the cops. Fuck them. They're not gonna beat me, right? Maybe. Another podcast. I was scared of my dad knowing, our dad knowing, for obvious reasons. And so, and Johnson was in Upward Bound with me at that time. And so I remember him and I talking about it. He's like, "You don't have to go home. Don't go home. I won't go home either. How about that? We'll just stay out here." He's like, "I don't want to go back home either." Because he was in an abusive situation too. And we had met in high school in at my senior year. And so I remember he was right next to me. Maybe you were there too, because you were there that last year, my last year. I don't know, but I get on that payphone. There was a payphones back then. This is 1992.
I wasn't there.
No?
No, when I was at Upward Bound, you were in the garage.
Oh, okay. So I went for 2 years before you got to go for your first one. That's right. That's why we didn't
Because I was a freshman when you were a
Right,
senior.
right. That makes sense. Of course. So yeah, so it was John and me and a couple other people probably like sitting there supporting me, and I'm like, call Dad on a payphone. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, how's it going, son?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got some news for you." And he's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "I'm not coming home after this program is over." And he was like, "Well, you're 18. There's nothing I can do about it." I was like, "Okay, I love you." Click. Whew. Okay. I didn't tell him anything about he knew though. The cops had to call him and tell him about that.
Yeah, that's when he felt he lost his son.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that end, because I was home.
Yeah. So you want to tell me about what that was like?
What that was like?
Yeah.
For me personally?
Sure. Or for the family, because I wasn't paying attention.
Well, mom and dad were obviously worried about you because we all knew you were on drugs and stuff. But I was so fucking pissed at you because you abandoned me.
Yeah.
You left me there alone.
Yeah.
That's what I was feeling.
Fuck. Yeah.
Which is not fair to you, but
No,
growing up and stuff, all we had was each other.
Yeah.
And so then I was still...
You're going it alone now.
I was still in Hoopa. I was still there.
Yeah.
Dad wasn't perfect. He wasn't like physically abusive, but he wasn't like the nicest human being to us. And I felt very abandoned.
Oh man.
And very worried about you.
Yeah.
At the same time, in the same breath.
Yeah, well, I mean, good reason too, because I was just homeless after that. I was homeless that whole summer until school started. Did a lot of fucking drugs, did a lot of fucking hallucinogenics, and living on the streets, sleeping in John's dad's van that was parked outside of a rehab place that John's dad was at. you know,
Oh,
uh,
Lord.
doing a lot of drugs, and then my first year of Humboldt State started, and then I fucking just kept partying, kept doing that shit, kept same thing, meth and acid, mixing them sometimes, some doing them separate, and then school ended, and I ended up in this garage. My federal work study boss had was leaving on vacation for the summer, and she knew I didn't have a place to go, so she's like, "Why don't you just stay in my garage?" She had no idea that garage, and that was the year you went to Upward Bound.
That's the year I went to Upward Bound.
Yeah.
And you lived in the garage, and it was the partying place to be.
Yes. That's where I met my buddies from Graybush, Jake
I
and
was just gonna
Simon.
say,
Yeah,
the drums,
yeah,
the music.
Yeah, we were playing. That's where all acts of aggression started. Force fed trauma. All my bands that I ever toured in started there in that garage and that summer. And my friendship with Jake and Simon, 30 years more now. And those two are my brothers still. And I'm so glad we all survived because they were partying pretty hard too. Like Jake and I, yeah. But so after the garage, I had nowhere to go. The place was getting sold. I didn't know that was going to happen, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So Johnson lets me move in with him and his trailer over off of Spear Avenue. That's when I started going off the deep end. People there. I would go and get 8 balls for the people that lived there and bring them back, and 8 balls, a lot of fucking drugs. This whole time, what's going on at home?
Well, Dad, started working for the fishing game.
He did that when I was in high school still. He started when I was like 17.
Yeah. Well, okay, so
he took me to the weir and then.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
He did that with me too. I was not comfortable.
No.
I thought he was gonna kill me and I'd go down the river or something.
Yeah.
But how sad is that?
Yeah.
Jesus.
He was trying to connect with us, and all we could think of was that we're in danger.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he would tell me all the time, man, that time I tried to take you to the weir, all you wanted to do was go hang out with your buddy. I'm like, I'd never met this kid before in my life. It was your buddy's son that wasn't supposed to be there, but was there. Yeah, we went off to smoke weed. Yeah, of course,
Right.
it was a 17-year-old kid, But yeah, so you went to the weir too. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went to the weir too. I mean, it was cool, but I was scared the whole time. Just sad to me, especially since those kind of moments were never.
That was one of the only times he actually took us somewhere to do something with, and it was not received well for obvious reasons. So, okay. Then, after I was in Johnson's trailer and I was homeless again. I started couch surfing at my friend's house. I'm not going to name any names there. Just doing meth and just all the time now, like constantly. And at this point, I had been up for 4 days. And I dropped a couple of hits of acid, right? And then first time something snapped in my head and I was like, I'm God. Right? And then my friend, I don't even remember his name, who was doing acid next to me, started laughing and said, yeah, you are. And then I went, he agreed with me. And then after that, it's just my brain started to come unglued and unraveled. And I started like being this prophet dude or whatever. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you were pretty out there.
Mm-hmm. You want to tell me about some of the experiences of that? Because I hadn't. Did you see me before I went to the mental hospital the first time?
I saw you on when you lived on F Street. in
Okay,
the
so that was
Squire's
after the
housing.
first time.
Yeah, I saw that, and I mean, we visited you once in the mental institution, and that might have been the first time,
Yeah.
and that was scary, and I don't really remember too much because it was like really kind of traumatic.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I know that they had to like tie you down and shit
Yeah.
in the mental institution.
Yeah.
And, I mean, good lord, dude.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so that was a lot of meth. I yeah, the first time I went there and then I got out and I came home, right? So the first time I went there they tied me down. I don't know how long it was days. I was probably tied down for days. Um and
Yeah, and was that the time when you came home when you were on the fold out couch
Yep.
in the living room?
Yep.
Okay, so that time for a while you were so out of it, you would like you'd be like in your fucking underwear and you'd be holding your pants like you didn't even know like what the hell you were supposed to do with your pants, and you like to mom, and those are your pants, you know, you got to put on your pants. And I you were in a very bad way for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. I didn't know how to talk to people. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't put on my fucking clothes. Uh Yeah, dude. What a trip, dude. I barely remember any of that. Hi, this is James. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube right now, do me a huge favor and give it a like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, you could rate it, you could review it, you could share it with a friend as well. That would help me out a lot. Either way, thank you very much. And then I moved out of that place and into Uncle Tom's cabin. Right. So I just learned today that the sequence of events is that after the first time I got out of the mental hospital, came back home to Hoopa, lived with mom and dad and you, because you were still at home too. And then I moved out to Uncle Tom's cabin and I started using drugs there again. That's right. Right.
Yeah, with people coming and hanging out, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you had that little box fridge, the yellow box fridge, and you
Yeah.
had a regular Nintendo in there with the little janky TV, and you'd play Contra. And
Oh yeah. 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 Listening to Primus, playing Contra. Yeah, I remember that. And then I went and moved back in with our uncle. I was supposed to go back out into the world and try again, but I was already using meth that time. And then he kicks me out after a couple of months because he thinks I stole some of his shit, you know, which is possible. I'm not saying I didn't. Not saying I did either.
right,
But it's
but I
possible.
mean, you know, it's the lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I'm homeless again. And I'm couch surfing, and then I remember one of my friends that was couch surfing with, and I've actually we talked a couple times recently, which is awesome. He's doing real good. But I remember him and his girlfriend were very worried about me, and so they convinced me to go to Mad River Hospital to get me checked out to find out what was wrong with me. And, you know, I'm hearing voice. I'm schizophrenic again, right, at this point. And then somehow, I guess I'm in the waiting room because, you know, it's Mad River and like I'm not bleeding out of my face or anything. So I just leave. And I'm walking down. I remember this walk very vividly. I'm walking down and I'm seeing spaceships flying around and shit. And I'm tripping on them and stuff. And then I end up back at their apartment. And they're like, "What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed?" And they take me back to Mad River Hospital. And I don't remember after that. I think something happened. I think I collapsed. Because the first time, what got me into the mental hospital the first time was I was at my ex-girlfriend's house here in Arcata. And what I remember and what they remember are completely two different things, right? So I'm in this dark place and I see this pinpoint of light up in the upper corner, right? And I'm reaching out to touch it. And every time I touch it, it burns my finger. Reach out again, and it burns my finger, right? When they told me the story later, they're like, what you were doing is you were sitting on our couch. You were lighting matches, telling us you were God, and to prove it, you were burning your fingers with these matches.
Wow.
Right? So I was somewhere else, but my body was, I don't know, being remotely controlled or something. I don't know, man. It's fucking nuts. And then I wander out of their house, thankfully, and then I fucking collapse on the sidewalk, and I think I died. I got resuscitated. They had called 911 on me. I got resuscitated on the sidewalk. And then the second time, I remember, same thing. Probably walking back from, so foggy for me, but maybe it was when they took me back to Mad River again, and I collapsed. I fucking, I don't know if I flatlined or what, but I collapsed in the hospital, or I collapsed outside of the hospital or something. And again, I remember being in the like a common room where there's a bunch of beds, and then I ended up in Sempervirens again, in the mental hospital again.
Yeah, so one of those times, if it's, I don't know which time it was, but there's a girl and a guy called home, called us, and was telling us what was going on. And they attributed the girl and the guy for saving their life.
Oh,
They were in contact with us in Hoopa.
how did they get your number?
Probably from you.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. It'd be the only way, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, yeah, they came by. So, yeah, they came by. So, after the second time, when I got into the mental hospital again, I got admitted into a halfway house because I had been diagnosed with chronic schizophrenia and paranoia and PTSD and anxiety disorder. Because before I'd been diagnosed with amphetamine delusional disorder,
right?
A couple other things, and then they were just like, "No, he's full blown schizophrenia." You know.
That was like the halfway house little apartment that you got.
Well, before that, it was the halfway house. When I was in that place, yeah, I was in there for like a year, right? And that's when Mom told me that I could never come home again. Yeah. And maybe you can talk about how that was for you.
Well, the counselor told Mom that if you wanted to come home, that if she did let you, it was codependency and everything, and it'd probably kill you. And so she told you on the phone that you couldn't come back. You couldn't move back in. You were on your own. Well, I mean, she got off the phone with you, like, "No, Mom, no," you know.
Oh, man. Yeah. I remember that, crying.
And she got off the
Wish
phone.
I could cry like that now.
Well, she was crying.
Yeah.
She was just, that, like, fucking ripped her in half. And I was just like, I was angry at them. I mean, part of me kind of understood, but then I was like, we're throwing away our Jimmy, you know, and
yeah,
it was like,
you worried they were gonna kick you out too? Yeah.
I mean, you know, you don't step to the rules, you
get killed. Yeah. Yeah, so that was probably the best thing they ever did for me in that whole time, was make me responsible for my own choices at this point. And it cut me off from them. And they did tell me I could come back once I cleaned up for a while. But so I did that, and then I went into the satellite house of that. So I was living in a studio apartment after I graduated the halfway
Yeah.
house.
And then I remember visiting you in that little studio.
I fucking hated it there. I cried so much in there. I was so lonely, and I'm just like in there, so depressed, hearing voices, taking antipsychotics, and I'm just crying and crying because I'm so alone, and I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. Like that's all I had was the voices, I had to go to, so being in the halfway house wasn't just what I had to do, and being in that satellite studio apartment, I had to go to a day treatment facility every day, 5 days a week. So I had to do group counseling, individual counseling. I had to do NA and AA twice a week each, right? So I was what's called a dual diagnosis, a drug addict, as well as having mental health issues, a mental health diagnosis. I had been put on SSI finally after 7 months of appealing and all that, even though I had case managers and therapists and psychiatrists all like on my team pushing for me so they could get their money, because they would get doing this all for free with the caveat that I would owe them the money from my retroactive check, right? And that ended up working out, right? So, but you were going to say something?
Oh, is that like you had to go from one end of Eureka to the other on a bike or something to go to your meeting?
Yeah.
Just that flash in my head.
Yeah.
When you were
Yeah, I
saying
wasn't
had to,
driving
like,
yet.
No, I know you weren't, but I remember you're like, it's really far. You got to go all the way.
Yeah.
On the bike.
From fucking C and 7th Street to 720 Wood Street. That's where the mental hospital is. All the way down 8th Street. Yeah. Yeah, I rode that little bike everywhere. I did it though. I did it. And then I moved out of that satellite apartment. Thomas, our friend Thomas, was like, "Hey, why don't you come live with me?" And I went and moved in with him, and then started using again.
That was F Street.
Yep. Yeah. Fucking relapse after relapse, man. And then guess what happened 3 months later? Back in the mental hospital.
Yeah, I remember right before you went back into the mental hospital, Grandma, we came to come visit you or take you shopping or whatever. And when we ended up leaving you, you were standing on the sidewalk. You were standing on the sidewalk, talking to the air, having a conversation, and some girl was walking and made a wide berth around you. And I just started crying as we're leaving you behind.
Yeah. Dude. Rough, man. And, it wasn't until like my 30s when I was tattooing that something hit me, and it made me realize that I thought I was just hurting myself, but I wasn't. I was hurting everyone that cared about me. And I apologize for that.
Yeah, it just sucks that.
It was probably the softest place for me to land. Right? But yeah, I didn't know.
That you've come so far.
Yeah, thank you. You too.